Guardate ragazzi! Guardate un po'! Guardate un po' ragazzi! Sono un amico!
Italy is facing a major crisis after catastrophic floods swept through the parts of the country, with Sicily and Tuscany bearing the burst of devastation. Torrential rain over the past week was causing rivers to overflow, triggering landslides, and left entire communities underwater. The flood, described as some of the worst in recent memory, have claimed lives, displaced thousands, and caused widespread damage to infrastructure and homes. In Sicily, the latest rainstorm had left widespread flooding across urban and rural area alike. In the island capital Palermo, streets have turned into rivers, with the cars submerged and many residents forced to evacuate. Catania, another major city, has also been severely affected, with widespread damage reported in a historic center. The floods have overwhelmed the drainage system, leaving emergency services struggle to keep with the demand to rescue operations. Many people have been trapped in their homes, and helicopters have been destroyed to relieve residents from isolated areas.
Guardate come piove, come nevica a Pasqua.
In the heart of the Mediterranean, the Italian island of Sicily has long been seasonally with a sun of detending coastline and seductive blend of the history and culture. However, this idyllic landscape is recently has been transformed into a dramatic scene of nature fury. A formidable storm marked by resilient rain and fierce winds and lashed Sicily, unveiling the vulnerable of even the most picturesque square of the region with the firms of weather. The storm onslaught was achieved with meteorologists barely able to predict and intensify before the unleashed food and made the apex of fury. Within hours, streets and town crises across the Sicily were inundated, transformed urban center into unwelcoming, water-loaded mazes. The rain, increasing unforgiving, pointed the wind portrayal of the region undecided by the elements. In Palermo, the Sicilian capital, scenes and the chaos unfolded. As streets and usually burst with the life and aroma of Sicily, crash while deserted save from accessional vehicles struggling against the rising water. The iconic Trastevere, a testament of Sicily agriculture, dangerous stood with the silence within to unflooding calamity. Italy Environmental Minister has promised to new plan to rebuild the south, including flood protection and reforestation measures to improvement the early warning system, but critical say this measure alone overdue. In Palermo, the sun broke through the grey sky, illuminating the messy aftermath in the night of Sicilian will not soon forget. We use a hardship, said Maria Conte, the grandmother, whose home was flooded, but we will drive flood, support each other and move on. Sicily is beginning to recover, but questions remain. Will the storm, the wake-up call, is just another serious ignore of warnings?
Mai visto una roba del genere, guarda!
The storm, which has intensified in Mediterranean Sea over the past few hours, has taken a characterized as a full-fledged cyclone. Winds around the ridge and sometimes exceeded gusts of 100 km/h as the sea was through. In the coming days, severe storm with wake up to 5 to 6 meters high and peaks up to 8 meters are expected in the low Mediterranean Sea between the southwestern provinces of Campania, especially Cilento and Calabria, as well over most of Sicily and the Ionian Sea and the entire Adriatic. Tomorrow they shift the low-pressure system towards the Adriatic with a mainly effect to eastern basins, so let's take a look at the details. The Italian capital Rome has been stunned after a sudden and violent hailstorm swept through the city, pelting streets, monuments, and neighborhoods with the eyes at the sky of Ghost Ball. The storm struck with little warning, turning summer strikes into a dramatic clash of thunder and lightning before unleashing torrents, the rain mixing with the hail. Within minutes, rolled turned wild, resembling winter snow rather than a September evening. I felt like the sky was exploding, said Marco Benetti, a taxi driver whose car window was shattered. I lived here all life and never seen Rome like this. Dozens of people were threatened to injure, many from flying glass and fallen debris. Hospital reported cases to shock and debris and brushes, where several children were taken with a hit injury caused by the hailstorm. Emergency service received a call. The city responded to collapsing shops, canopies, damaged vehicles, and flooded underpasses. Tourists were cut off guard in a historic era, with doors around the shelter inside the Colosseum and St. Petersburg's car and hailstorm battered courtyard and pieces. Social media quickly filmed with the several images of the Trastevere fountain surrounded by the sky, with the local described it into a scene from another world. Transport was now into disarray. Rome's metro facing delay after water seeped into tunnels, with the traffic jam scattered into kilometers and the driver abandoned damaged car. Agriculture outside the city was also hit. The vineyard in Lazio suffered severe damage and the entire crew destroyed just a week before harvest, raising fears of million losers to the local farmers. Meteorologists explained the storm was fueling the unusually warm Mediterranean air classes the colder north front, creating the perfect conditions to the hail formations. Experts warning that climate change is making such extreme events more frequent even in the region accustomed to them. The small town of Al-Balif in province of Como was left in shock after severe hailstorm hit the area on a Monday evening, covering streets, cars and roofs with ice balls the size of walnuts in some areas tennis ball. The storm, which lasted less than half an hour, caused significant damage but struck locals with a sudden ferocity. Residents described it chaotic scenes and roads turned wild in a matter of minutes, forcing cars to stop. It was like an attack, where the hail was so strong that it broke roofs, totaled and damaged cars in the seconds, said Maria Conti, a shop owner in the city center. Several houses had broken windows and an emergency service received dozens of calls for help. Firefighters worked throughout the night and cleared fallen branches to secure damaged roofs, with the local farmers reported significant crops losers, especially in vineyards and orange, were weeks away from the harvest. Agriculture Association estimated the damage of hundreds of thousands of euros. Videos posted online showed the streets Albaville, resembling frozen river with the drain overflowing with a sudden rush in water and ice. Public transport with the disruption throughout the province of Como, and temporarily enclosures were put up in place in prevent accidents. Meteorologists explained the phenomenon as a result in the sharp rise in hot, humid air against the cold front moving from the northern Italy, and the collisions that can cause severe thunderstorm and hail. Experts also notated that climate change is increasing both with the frequency and severity at such events throughout the region. Local authority urged residents to check instability in their roofs and vehicles, and the major promised rapid assistance to those affected. Albertville was faced many storms, but this was one of the worst in recent years. We support our community in the recovery, he said. For the many residents of the province of Como, this storm was stark reminder of the unpredictability of nature, and the growing challenge is adapting to weather conditions.
Eccoci qua, è arrivata la prima pioggia. Devo spendere pure le luci alla piazzetta.
Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed her condolences and promised immediate government support. We will not leave Sicily alone with this tragedy. The flood also caused significant economic damage. Vineyards, citrus grove, and olive farms are blackboard on Sicily economy, where flooded and agriculture groups warn of millions in losers. Businesses in the historic center of Palermo may be closed for the weeks and a half a month. The Italian Meteorological Service has linked in disaster to the Medican and Mediterranean cyclones similar to the Trapon storm. Since when the climate change is exacerbating such phenomena as a warning sea contributing to heavier rains and a violent storm. Residents clearing debris are in shock. Standing outside the damaged barrier, Rosa Conte said, Sicily is used to the hardship, but this something else. We cannot fight this our own.
Meu Deus, o que é isso? Terminou com a minha casa. Terminou. Eu nunca vi na minha vida isso aqui, Jesus. Terminou com tudo.
The land were deepened on the cast field destroyed. Power outage left more than 400,000 homes in the dark. A rail service were suspended and Palermo airport was severely disrupted. Businesses and county millets as losers, with tourism, agriculture and fishing particularly hard hit. Sicily famous citrus groves, olive trees and vineyards were flooded, raising fears to flood and shortage. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni declared the flooding a national emergency, promising immediate funding to military support. We stand with the Sicily, she said. European Union officials also pledged to assist with the barriers linking to the disaster and urgent need to action on climate change. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying on severity of Mediterranean storms, and warning seas are contributing to more intense rainfall. Dr. Rilan Rossi, a climatologist, said, "What we are seeing in Sicily, a venial future is urgent action to take no taking. As the water begins to recede, thousands of people forced to painful task to rebuilding. Standing outside her destroyed homes in Palermo, Servia Rosa Ferraro said with the tears in her eyes, "The Sicilians are strong, but the storm was broken our heart." Rome was left standing after extraordinary hailstorm turned in the ancient city into the local described the sudden winter in September. Streets across the capital, including Ura near the Colosseum and Pisa Venezia, were blanking a thick layer of ice, disrupting traffic and caused widespread astonishment. The violent storm struck with a little warning, planted the city with a hailstorm the size of a walnut. Within minutes, drains were overwhelmed, leading the flash flood in low-lying districts. Motorists were forced to abandon cars and ice storms swept through the several avalanches, while public buses struggled to navigate blocked roads. Emergency service reported dozens of calls to assistance. Firefighters were deployed to clear fallen branches and rescue drivers trapped to flooded in underpasses. No fatalities were confirmed, but several minor injuries occurred as people slipped on the ice-coated pavement. One resident told local media, "I lived in Rome 40 years. I never seen hail like this. I felt that the city had been dropped into another season." Meteorologists explained that the year was triggered by a clash of warm Mediterranean air with a powerful cold front from the northern Europe, creating ideal conditions from the hail formations. Rome, a city more accustomed to the golden sun, said that the ice storm was hit by an unusual hailstorm that covered its streets and the thick layer of ice. The sudden downpour, which lasted then an hour, brought daily life to the sudden health, forced residents and tourists to try and understand the extent of the damage. Meteorologists' incidents confirmed the hailstorm was caused by the collisions of warm Mediterranean air masses with a sharp cold front from the northern Europe. Strong updrafts formed hailstorm the size of a golf ball, which damaged roofs, smashed shop windows, and left cars covered in dent. It caused chaos and transformation. Several metro stations were forced to close due to flooding and major roads turned into rivers and melted slush. Emergency service reported rescued dozens of people trapped in their cars, while firefighters rushed to clear a fallen bridge and the restore blocked drainage system. In 30 years of service, I have never seen a Rome suffer so much from ice, said a fire brigade representative. Hospitals across the capital treated dozens of people who were injured after slipper of ice sidewalks. Tourists visited landmarks such as Pizza Venezia and Spanish Steps, described it surreal scene. We thought it was snowing, but the hail became so heavy that it hurt, recalled Anna, a tourist from Germany. Farmers in Lazio Businesses and restaurants suffered significant losers as water and ice flooding basements and outdoor terraces. The city farmed landmarks from the Colosseum to Pisa Novara, the brilliantly unrecognized shady streets of hail. Agriculture areas surrounding Rome also reported heavy damage. Farmers in Lazio said crops and grapes, olives and artichokes were devastated. Climatologists warned that such sudden and destructive storms are becoming more common across southern Europe due to climate change. The Mediterranean basin is heating faster than the global average, explained Dr. Lena Moretti of Italy National Meteorological Institute. This increases the energy available to violent thunderstorms. As cleanup operations continue, the city faces millions in damage and the stark warning about the vulnerable to extreme weather. The storm throughout lesson test 1 hour will likely be remembered as one of Rome's most severe hail events in the decades. It was like the end of the world, said Marina Ferrara, a local spokesman near the Colosseum. Everything turned white in 5 minutes. The sound was pure terror. Photos and videos circulated on social media showed iconic landmarks like a Trevi Foundation and the Pizza Venezia buried in ice. Hail up to 15 centimeters deep fell in some areas, causing road closures and public transport delays. Several trees were uprooted, debris littered the I-19 ring road and severe traffic jams ensured. Outside the capital, neighboring farmland in Lazio suffered severe agriculture damage. Vineyard and olive groves were devastated, with the farmers estimated losers in the millions of euros. The crops are completely destroyed. It is heartbreaking, said Antonio Rizzi, a farmer in Velletri. Environmental experts warn that climate change is making such extreme weather events increasingly frequent. Professor Gianni Volde and Rome University pointed out the Mediterranean is warming faster than the global average. He explained it. They mean storms generate more energy, making heavy rain and large hail from likely. Rome is reeling from the storm fury as an emergency response to unclear roads and assets damage. When the eternal city has been reminded is not immune and the intensify extreme weather caused by the climate change. A ferocious hailstorm hit Sicily on a Wednesday. City residents and tourists filling the streets were transformed into the city torrents. Cities including Palermo, Catania and Messina, facing torrential rain hailstorms up to golf ball size and a gale strong enough to apron trees and damaged rooftop. Local eyewitness Gianni Russo described the scene. It was a chaos, hail bouncing off cars, warning the rise in a minute. People were running to cover and noise were like thunder, multiple tender. Emergency service reported over 400 calls for the rapid motorists, fallen branches and damaged property. Several small rivers overflowed, forcing evacuation in low-light districts. Historic neighborhoods were not spared. Streets in Palermo town were flooded with iconic squares like Pisa Petronia and other particularly submerged. Hail pelted centuries-old buildings, leaving shattered rooftops and dented hulks in the wake. Agriculture in Sicily took a severe hit. Vineyards, olive groves and citrus orange in Catania and Saragossa provinces suffered massive losers. Farmer Luca Bianchi said, "Our entire harvest is destroyed in a matter of minutes. The hail was relentless." We lost almost everything again, sang restaurant Elena Rossi. Her voice break into the survey of the match. Elsewhere, boats were tested again this storm among vents, water taxis capacity, and debris fields and channels. Emergency crew working throughout the night and evacuate elderly residents to reinforce power lines damaged by the fallen trees. Schools and museums remain closed and cleanup operation continue. Meteorologists attributed the storm to collisions between warm Mediterranean air and cold front descending from the northern Europe, and combination that triggering extreme conditions and intense rainfall. Italy's Civil Protection Agency has issued a red alert for the much of Veneto region, warning that more storms could follow. Meteorologists from Italy's Civil Protection Agency described the storm as one of the strongest in recent years. The combination of warm, moist air from the Mediterranean and a cold front from the north caused extensive instability, explained meteorologist Marco Benetti. Such supercell systems are becoming more frequent due to climate change. Authority urged residents to stay indoors and avoid flood streets, warning to even more severe weather expected in a kind of weekend. Cleanup efforts are underway, with the city worker clearing debris in the hail from clogged storm drains. Major Roberto Gilardi called the situation as a wake-up call for climate change preparedness. Rome is not used to such violent weather, he said. We must adapt to infrastructure and protect cities to preserve and heritage. Sicily have been struck by a powerful and sudden storm, leaving widespread damage, flooded streets and stranded residents in its wake. Torrential rain, strong winds exceeded 100 km/h and have plummeted cities from Palermo to Catania, turned roads into rivers, and causing chaos in towns across the island. Residents reported being cut off guard by the intensity of the storm. "I never seen a rain came down like this in my life," say Maria Russo, a Palermo resident. "With the wind ripped off our shoulders and the streets filled with water within minutes." Emergency services were inundated with the calls, responded to fallen trees, blocked roads and damaged vehicles. Several small rivers in Catania and Messina overflowed, forcing evacuation in low-lying neighborhoods. Schools and public offices were closed, and local airports experienced flight cancellation due to heavy rainfall and poor visibility. Historic cities were also affected. In Palermo, parts of the old city suffered minor flooding, while the calendar, and Trevor Massimo saw water slipping into Contiat. Rome has been struck by an unprecedented and violent hailstorm that transformed the eternal city into surreal winter scene, shocking residents and disrupted daily life. Within a minute, large hailstorm, storms the size of walnuts, battered the capital, damaged cars, broke windows, and blanketed Athens streets in white. The storm hit late in the afternoon, following days in unusual warm weather. Meteorologists from Italy's Civil Protection Department subscribed the event as sudden and extreme, with intense rainfall and temperature drops of nearly 10 Celsius under an hour. It was one of the most intense connective storms we've seen over Rome in a year, said meteorologist Alicia Romano. Social media quickly filled with dramatic footage showing torrents and ice and water cascading down the city capable alley, with the Trastevere and Prato districts drains overloaded, turning roads into river in slash. It was terrified, said local resident Marco De Luca, and was hit at the heart where it felt like a window were going to explode. Rome was gripped in the chaos late Tuesday. A violent storm swept across the Italian capital, bringing torrential rain, hail, and lightning strikes had pounded the parts of the city in darkness. Within an hour, the storm transformed cobblestone streets into rivers and flooded metro tunnels, leaving the residents stranded in an emergency service stretcher within. The Italian Civil Protection Department confirmed over 800 emergency calls overnight. Streets surrounding Pisa, Venezia, Termini Station, and Vatican were submerged under the half-meter of water. Local media reported dozens of vehicles stranded, with the fallen trees, crushed parked cars, and blocked tram lines. "I felt like the sky was collapsing," said Francesca Rinaldi, the resident of Trastevere. "The thunder was constant, it shook windows, we had the struggle hitting the roof, I threw the glass would shatter." Meteorologists described the storm as a part of the Mediterranean supercell, filling the unstoppably warm sea and the cold wind with the cold front moving south from the Alps. When it reached 19 km per hour, and a hailstorm the size of walnuts battered rooftops and monuments. Dramatic footage circulated online showing lightning strikes near the Colosseum and illumination St. Petersburg's sky and the flashing era white. The Tiber rivers very rapidly prompted warning to the residents living along the banks. Rome against infrastructure is not built in such intensify, such Professor Enzo Mariani, a climate analyst from the Super Zen University. This is another reminder that climate change is making extreme weather for more frequent is unpredictable across southern Europe. Rome, Italy. A sudden and violent hailstorm hit the heat of the Rome on a Wednesday afternoon, catched residents and tourists off guard. When less than an hour hailstorm the size of a golf ball battered the city, breaking windows, dented cars, and flooded streets across the central districts, including Trastevere, Prato, and Monte. The noise was different. It sounded like a war zone, said Luca Bianchi, a local shop owner. Shoppers ran for cover and hail smashed safe fronts, where quickly flooded the streets and cars were stranded in waist-deep public boulders. Emergency service reported over the 215 calls for assistance, preliminary for damaged vehicles and flooded basements. Several trees were uprooted by strong winds accompanied the storm, blanket major roads and disrupting public transportation. Raw Metro Line A temporarily halted in affected areas due to water intrusion in tunnel. Meteorologists explained that storm was followed by a clash of warm, humid Mediterranean air with a cold front from the north, producing unusually large constant intensity winds.